This is World Studies. In case you forgot what class you're in, this is Chapter 20. Yes, the last chapter in your book, entitled The Global Community. Now, let me give you guys a heads up about what to expect these last 2 weeks of the school year. By the way, this is the first video of week 7. So hopefully you've gotten all of the Chapter 19 material, the Chapter 19 test. All of that was taken care of in your Week 6 packet. You've picked up now Week 7, and we are beginning with the beginning of this chapter. Let me give you a few things that you need to know. For the last 2 weeks of this semester, I'm going to continue teaching Chapter 20 as is. Might finish it this week, might not. But you will not have a regular exam for this class. Once you take the Chapter 20 test, you will have completed all of the requirements for this class. Now, if you are missing anything from earlier this year that you still need to make up, please check iNow to see what you are missing, and then please make up that material. You've got 2 weeks before the end of the school year. I know, I can't wait. We're already almost there. So, let's get right into it. We're on page 369 in our textbooks. I want you to read the intro paragraphs to yourself. Once you have finished reading, please unpause the video and we will continue. So let's get started. Roman number 1, environmental trends. The Earth has billions of people and many different species of animal life. The Earth continues to experience changes in its environment in several different ways. Letter A, population shifts. The human population has passed 7 billion people. They predict that it will reach 8 billion by the year 2024 and 9.5 billion by 2050. Some parts of the world have seen stable or gradually declining populations, while other regions have a rapidly increasing population. The map you see down below, basically the redder, the brighter the color is, the redder the tint, shows you the more densely populated countries of the world. You see China, India, Europe, the U.S., parts of Latin America having the most dense populations. Although immigrants, let's talk about some of these places. Number 1, stable or declining populations. Some European and North American countries are experiencing shrinking populations due to lower birth rates in spite of immigration. Although immigrants are moving to Europe, mostly from Africa and the Middle East, many European countries are still seeing shrinking national populations. The U.S. and Canada are still growing as nations due to immigration, yet a large birth rate has declined. This is resulting in a post-Western culture. As the Western world continues to shrink in relation to the rest of the world, the Western influence will continue to shrink in comparison to Latin America, Africa, and Asian cultures. If we were in class right now, I would ask you, with a show of hands, how many of you are first or second generation immigrants? You know of your parents having come to America, and we would get some hands raised. If I were to throw that with your grandparents, we'd see some more hands raised, possibly maybe between half and a third of the class. That goes to show you that America, yes, the population's still growing, but due mostly to the number of immigrants, not to the number of children being born in the U.S. Problems that a declining state deals with is labor shortages, growing environmental issues, and social turbulence. With fewer children to grow up to join the workforce, labor shortages occur, resulting in a shrinking economy. This also means there will be fewer people to deal with growing environmental issues in the country. A short-term solution is to have immigrants provide the labor, but if the native population continues to shrink, the immigrant population may take over. Declining states will cease to play any significant role in the international arena and may even be absorbed by other countries. Number 2, growing at varying rates. So we've seen already now the declining or stable population regions. Now let's talk about places in which the population is continuing to grow. Latin America, Asia, and parts of Africa have produced the largest and fastest growing populations. Growing percentage of the world's population will live outside of the countries traditionally considered advanced. Growing nations are forced to balance industrial growth with protecting the environment. Improved sanitation and increasing supplies of safe drinking water are essential to prevent the spread of disease. Increased use of coal and oil has also created significantly more pollution. Accurately predicting the 10 fastest growing cities that will arise in the next 25 years is a difficult, if not impossible, task. However, current trends suggest certain regions in which these cities will be located. For example, hundreds of cities in China, India, and Latin America are currently growing at rates that vary from 16% to well over 100%. Whether such growth is sustainable is impossible to predict. However, China has several cities that should continue to grow steadily as a rural population moves to the cities for better living conditions and improved job opportunities. Between 2000 and 2010, 84 of the world's 300 most rapidly growing cities were located in China. Africa is currently the least urbanized continent, but African cities are beginning to grow at a modestly accelerated rate of 3%. Most of Latin America's cities are growing at nearly 19%, but this growth does not represent all Latin American countries. For example, Argentina's urban growth was just over 11%, while Guatemala's growth topped 40%. The growth of cities presents many problems, including housing, sanitation, and transportation. However, it also provides new opportunities for the spread of the gospel through national believers and missionaries. Letter B, growth of urban life. Not only is the world population growing, it is also migrating to the cities. People are continuing to move to the cities to find work. Therefore, the world's largest cities will need to provide an infrastructure to handle tens of millions of people in each city. In 1900, the largest cities were located in Europe and North America. Today, the largest cities are in Asia and Latin America. 8 of the 10 largest cities are in Asia and Latin America. Most of these mega cities are located in India, Brazil, China, Mexico, and Africa. Around 54% of the world's population lives in cities. In fact, scholars predict that by 2025, 60% will live in cities. So more and more people are moving to the cities. Letter C, another issue, of course, dealing with population growth has to do with climate change. Is there such a thing as climate change? That's been often debated by scientists around the world. The answer, in short, is yes. In history, we saw recorded instances of global warming in the 11th century that resulted in increased food supply and population growths. Again, we saw in the 14th century a recorded instance of global cooling that led to famine and a great loss in life. The Earth's climate experiences cycles of change naturally. Some periods are warmer and allow greater food production, while others are cooler and reduce food production. So probably a more important question to ask is, can mankind cause climate change? Well, that's a trickier question to answer. Some believe that man is causing climate change and that dire consequences are just over the horizon. Al Gore, a former presidential candidate, wrote 2 books called Earth in the Balance, An Inconvenient Truth, and Our Choice. To reach answers regarding the issue of climate change, we need to ask several questions. First, is the Earth warming beyond normal cycles? Second, if the Earth is warming, is that a bad thing? Third, if the Earth is warming, has man done anything to cause it? Finally, are the proposed measures to curb climate change sensible? In other words, do the benefits outweigh the costs? What will the world economic impact of these measures? The answers to these questions will help us determine support for or opposition to the proposals that some scientists and government leaders are currently advocating. Letter D, energy resources. Oil is the cheapest and most common source of energy in the world. Man has discovered many energy resources, but oil is still used the most in transportation, heating, and production of electricity. Oil is mostly imported from the volatile Middle East. Because oil is necessary to sustain modern life, the producers of oil, mostly Middle Eastern Islamic nations, have a great amount of influence in the world. Growing economies in China and India have increased the demand and, because of that, the cost for oil. The level of demand fluctuates depending on economic factors, including recessions and discovery of new supplies. For example, when the corona situation took place, we saw a dramatic decline in oil prices because fewer people were driving. So therefore, fewer people were demanding and needing oil. And so we were able to get cheaper gasoline at the gas pump. Some nations seek to achieve energy independence by using nuclear energy or domestic drilling. Yet there is opposition to both of these methods as they can lead to environmental issues. Yet without these methods, current technology makes energy independence impossible. Turn in your books to page 372, and please read the box entitled Energy on page 372. Once you have finished, please unpause the video and we will continue. So, if I were to ask hypothetically, what forms of energy should we use? Well, I think all of us would have different answers to go with it. And y'all have to, at some point, you'll need to form your own opinions. The important thing, though, is to know what is helpful, and also in the sense of what helps us to fulfill God's creation mandate of using the earth as stewards of the earth, but also at the same time we need to make sure we take care of the earth as well. So we got to balance the two of using and taking care of our environment. Lastly today, let's talk about man's and woman's role in the environment. By the way, this is not an essay, but it is a question on your short answer, so you'll want to recall this, that this will be a question on the test, and it's actually a 3-part answer. As God's stewards, remember the creation mandate? As God's stewards, we are to wisely maximize the usefulness of God's creation. The command is not to maximize usefulness till it's wasted up. The command is not to avoid using the earth at all. We are commanded to have dominion over the earth, but to recognize it's God's creation, and we should take care of it. What is the greatest command in the Bible? Well, to love the Lord with our heart, soul, and mind. And what is the second great commandment? Number 2. By loving others, we ought to help the greatest number of people with basic needs. These basic needs include providing affordable food and clean water. And number 3, using resources to conserve human life. This is done by developing improved medicines and medical care, as well as removing pollutants from the air and water. Careless destruction does not accomplish these goals, but careful management of the environment for the good of mankind does. That's all we're going to cover for today. Hope you all have a good rest of the day. Be good, do good. Bye.